Hi grade 11s, I hope you're all doing well. Here is my video on teamwork. I'm running through all the videos, so I promise I do wear more than one shirt. If you've seen me in the same shirt in a couple of videos, I'm doing them all as and when I find the time, so please excuse that. And now today we'll be looking at teamwork. Okay, now there's some important terminology to remember. Role overload is when you give someone too much that they can't handle. So, if you give someone 5 or 6 different tasks and you overload them, we call it role overload. Synergy means when you take one on one, someone who would have done two tasks separately and they let them work together, they actually achieve more than they would have done apart. Dysfunctional teamwork is the opposite, is where 1 plus 1 actually equals 0. So, you have to respect and understand your role in order to create synergy. So the 4 stages of forming a team. The first is called forming, is when you bring together people from different backgrounds, you give an introduction to each, you get to know one another, and you learn about the team's goals and objectives. People start learning to know one another. Storming is when people start to express their ideas, and it happens that sometimes you have different perspectives, and that leads to conflict in the team. Okay, norming is when everyone begins to establish values. Team members start to understand one another, they understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they start working towards a common goal. Communication and collaboration become a big part of the team at this point. Okay, and the last one is performing. Performing is a stage where the business starts functioning at a high level, you reach your goals, and obviously then it's at its most effective. You also have adjoining, which when the team members all go their separate ways, and remember it's difficult to replace a team member because they don't necessarily know the culture, they don't know the people, so it's sometimes very difficult to replace a team member. Okay, the Balaban theory you guys can go through. So there's a couple of people. The creative person who comes up with new ideas is called the plant. The evaluator is a person who sits and analyzes and evaluates the options, whereas the coordinator is a complement, delegates tasks. Again, NASA, hope you're listening, and is working towards its objectives. A resource investigator is someone who establishes contacts and explores new resources in Netbooker. An implementer is someone who's practical and can implement plans into things. And a complete and efficient he makes sure that you do the high standards and your deadlines are met, and is very detail orientated. Team worker is a cooperative, supportive member who helps to build positive relationships. Shaper is a member who drives the team forward and overcomes obstacles. He's the one who's not scared to be a bit of a thorn in everyone's side, whereas a specialist is someone who has a very special set of skills. Okay, functional team conflict is when you have conflict that is productive and there's a positive outcome as because of it. People become or can communicate more efficiently, you actually got the job done, people actually understand one another better, and you've actually learned to grow. You open up communication and you're wanting to listen and grow as a person. Example is a team that comes up with the best approach to solve problems, the best way to allocate resources, a constructive disagreement, all those are examples. Okay, why do we have conflict? It's generally because of poor communication. It's also because of poor resource allocation. The business only has so many resources and we can't really give it to everyone, so everyone's fighting for resources. There's sometimes a lack of respect for rules, power struggles, or cultural differences. People are different, it's not a bad thing. But we've obviously got to expect that with different people becomes different viewpoints. Okay, so why should we have conflict management? Often arguments lead to growth, and this is known, as we said, as functional conflicts. It improves our relationships, it drives competition and helps us to identify problems. If you have competition, people will kind of work because I want to beat Bill in accounting. I'm going to go and figure out the best way to do this. I want to beat Bill, whoever Bill is. Okay, makes sense. Dysfunctional conflict is destructive in nature. It's when conflict becomes personal and it actually leads to a decrease in morale and productivity, and people's personal attacks. There's a lack of respect for each other, and I kind of get nowhere. So a team that is constantly bickering and arguing and they don't know what to achieve, who uses aggressive tactics to force compliance, and a workplace where people form cliques and gossip about one another, they backstab, or there's power struggles in play. Okay. So it lowers morale, it helps us to lose focus, it creates a bad business culture and reduces energy, and it reduces cohesion amongst the people. Okay, it's like a rope being pulled in 5 different ways and you actually don't end up going anywhere. So you need to be able to manage your time. You need to be able to prioritize and do a little bit at a time. And people need to be changed. You have to find the positive in change. It's necessary, but keep people informed about change, why change is happening, and reach out for help when you need it. Okay, so there's 4 strategies that businesses use. It can be accommodating, is where one party gives up and it just says, okay, I'm going to be accommodative, we're going to do what you want, I'm just going to give up. And so a manager agrees to an employee's request for time off, and one party gives up and the other one. Okay. Avoidance is the worst one, is when someone just avoids the problem and hopes it resolves itself. It works when it's small issues, but small issues become bigger issues if they are avoided for too long. Never really a good idea. Collaborating is when you work together. It becomes listening, opening communication, asking everyone involved. Democratic leaders will do this, where they want to collaborate on a problem or conflict. Everyone works together and it's kind of kumbaya, let's fix this up. Okay, competition is a conflict strategy where you create some competition when the issue is important and the partners have an adversarial relationship. You use that competition to drive the company forward. So it's when 2 salespeople compete for the same client. So generally that salesperson is going to give the best client the best service then. Compromise. So what's the difference? What's a compromise? A compromise versus accommodative. Accommodative is one person gives up everything the other one takes. Compromise is when one person's at 100 and one person's at 0. The person from 100 comes down to 50, the person from 0 goes up to 50. So both parties give up something and they reach a middle ground between one another. Okay, so a workplace forum is a forum where employees are allowed to communicate their thoughts, their ideas. It's a space where work-related issues can be brought up, and it's a result of collective bargaining agreements or a voluntary initial from the employee. It gives people a voice. A workplace forum is where people can come and have their voices heard. Okay, it deals with things like health and safety in the workplace, training and development, workload, pay and benefit, company policies, changes to the structure of the organization, things like that. Okay, the CCMA is the Council for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. They act as a neutral third party between employees and employee. It's to conciliate and help parties reach a mutually acceptable thing. We were talking about a bit this more during HR. Okay. So mediation is a voluntary process where either one gets involved in disputes. It's when a trained CCMA agent comes in and they act as an ear to ear and they kind of mediate the conversation. Again, I will discuss this more in person with you when we discuss it. Okay. So arbitration is a formal and legally binding process where the CCMA will tell you what to do. You were given the option with mediation and they would just listen. When arbitration happens, he tells you are going to do CDEF and you are going to do CDEF. It's legally binding, you can't fight them then.